Hello, beautiful children. Guess what I have today? The Snail and the Whale. This is by Julia Donaldson and Axel Scheffler. I'm not sure I've read this one before, but anyway, it's in my bookcase, so this is what's next on the shelf. And I hope you're all having a beautiful evening. I love you, Elena, Mark, all of you children who listen. I love you. And you are just marvelous. You are a blessing. I just want you to know that you children are a blessing. Okay, let's see what this story's a little longer than some of the ones I've been doing lately. Oh, and there's my partner in crime back there, Miss Bellsprout. She wanted to listen. This is the tale of a tiny snail and a great big gray-blue humpback whale. This is a rock as black as soot, and this is a snail with an itchy foot. The sea snails slithered all over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. And she gazed, she sniffed and sighed. The sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail, said the tiny snail. Okay, I'm going to lift it up where you can see the pictures. Now, if you can see, there's the tiny snail. And do you see the rock? And then here's the coast that they're at. How many of you guys live by the coast? There's a lot to see there, isn't there? A lot to enjoy. These are the other snails in the flock, who all stuck tight to the smooth black rock and said to the snail with the itchy foot, "Be quiet, don't wiggle, sit still, stay put." But the tiny sea snail sniffed and sighed, then cried, "I've got it, I'll hitch a ride." This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail that looped and curled and said, "Ride wanted around the world." So can you see the tiny snail leaving its silvery trail, right? And you see all the other snails on the rock? Look, with his slime that he leaves behind, he wrote a note on that slimy rock, "Ride wanted around the world." Okay. This is the whale who came one night when the tide was high and the stars were bright, a humpback whale immensely long, who sang to the snail a wonderful song of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves. And this is the snail of the humpback whale. He held it out of the starlit sea and said to the snail, "Come sail with me." Boy, I'm certainly having time with these S noises. Okay, there's the whale. That's the one that's offering to give him a ride. The whale's a whole lot bigger than that snail. With fiery mountains and golden sands. Oh, this is a pretty picture. Look at this. Now we've got the golden sands of an island. Do you see the monkey on a tree? And we've got a volcano back there. You see, look, there's a turtle on the beach. And I don't know if those are fish or seagulls because I have the book kind of backwards for myself. And then we've got the whale in the water. And I never thought that whales could come so close to the beach, but after living by the Pacific Ocean, they weren't really that far off when they did their little squirts and everything. It was beautiful. This is the sky, so vast and high, sometimes sunny and blue and warm, sometimes filled with a thunderstorm, with zigzag lightning flashing and frightening. The tiny snail on the tail of a whale. So let's take a look at the pictures. Now here we have you see the snail on the tail of the whale. Even in that bigger picture, you can see the snail. And it's all nice and sunny right there. And you see the crabs on the beach and the parrots in the trees. And look, he is during this storm, he's still staying on the tail of that whale. And she gazed at the sky, the sea, the land, the waves and the caves and the golden sand. She gazed and gazed, amazed by it all. And she said to the whale, I feel so small. Look at these beautiful pictures. Do you see the bear? Isn't that lovely? And you got the seagull and the mountains and the whale, and there's that tiny little snail still on the tail of the whale. Have you ever thought about how small you are compared to everything around you? Right? When you start to think about it, we're not very big. But then came the day the whale lost his way. These are the speedboats running a race, zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting the whale with the ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. This is the tide slipping away. Okay, so here the whale's kind of having a hard time because he's been in the water, but all these people on the boats are kind of forcing him to go to a different spot. And instead of going deeper in the water, he ended up closer to the beach, which is really hard for the whale. But the snail is still holding on. And this is the whale lying beached in a bay. Quick, off the sand, back to sea, cried the snail. I can't move on land. I'm too big, moaned the whale. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. Then I've got it, she cried, and started to crawl. I must not fail, said the tiny whale. And for good reason, because if the whale stays on the beach, the whale can't live outside of the water. Which way do I need to go? He would end up dying. So the snail, because the whale's been helping the snail, well, now the snail, who doesn't move very fast, is in a big hurry to find help for the whale. This is the bell on the school in the bay, ringing the children in from their play. This is the teacher holding her chalk, telling the class, sit straight, don't talk. This is the board as black as soot. And this is the snail with an itchy foot. A snail, a snail, the teacher turns pale. Look, said the children, it's leaving a trail. This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail saying, save the whale. So here they are all in school, right? And they have a blackboard. I don't know if they still use blackboards in school. Do they still use blackboards in school? And then you come over here and you see the snail has written a note for the class letting them know that the whale needs help with his silvery trail that he makes. He was able to write another note. These are the children running from school, fetching the firemen, digging a pool, squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. So people are running to help now because the snail asked for help. See, the firemen are in a rush to get over there. The children are running to the beach to help. And they're digging a hole and spraying the whale with water to try to save it. Everybody is rushed over because they want to help that whale. Isn't that a nice thing? You know, people actually do things like that in real life. I don't know if he'd like fresh water, but at least they're making an effort there. This is the tide coming into the bay. And these are the villagers shouting, hooray! As the whale and the snail travel safely away. So the tide came in, and they had dug that hole and kept him wet until the tide came in. You know, the tide comes in the evening. And they kept him wet all that time and in a puddle of water in that hole they made on the beach. And so the whale was able to get back out to sea. And the snail is there on his tail. They did a wonderful thing to help that whale. Back to the dock, and the flock on the rock, who said, how's time's flown, and haven't you grown? And the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice and coral waves and shooting stars. and enormous waves, of how the snail, so small and frail, with her looping, curling, silvery trail, saved the life of the humpback whale. Then the humpback whale held out his tail, and on crawled snail after snail after snail. So they took this adventure together. See if you can see all the picture. Now the little snail's still on the whale's tail, but guess what? He's gotten bigger. And the other ones were so excited to hear about his adventure and how wonderful it was. Do you see over where my hand is? He's got a bunch of snail friends joining him on the tail of the whale, and they want to go for a ride too. And they sang to the sea as they all set sail on the tail of the gray blue humpback whale. All right, now look at this. He's got a whole line of snails hitching a ride, going for an adventure in the sea. And they all want to have an adventure like the snail and the whale did. I hope you liked this story. I remember a word that somebody said recently to me, that somebody who wasn't really talking to me, and he said pat. I wonder if you can pat a whale. Anyway, I hope you all have a great night. God bless you.